All right, let's jump right in. We're talking about gold today, and specifically that crazy volatility we all know. But here's the twist. Instead of just reacting to it, we're going to break down how to build a systematic, automated agent that's designed to catch those powerful breakout moves. This is all about turning that market chaos into a clear process. You know, if you've ever stared at a gold chart, you know this feeling deep in your bones. The market just goes dead quiet, chopping around, lulling you to sleep, and then bam, it just explodes in one direction, leaving you either in the dust or, worse, caught on the completely wrong side. It's got to be one of the most classic and frustrating things about trading. And really, that gets to the heart of the whole problem, right? Gold kind of has this two-faced nature. It can be incredibly quiet, just grinding away in a tight little range, and then, in the blink of an eye, it becomes one of the most aggressive, fast-moving markets on the planet. The real challenge is figuring out how to navigate that switch without getting chewed up by all the false starts and fake-outs. So here's the crucial point. Our goal isn't to predict when gold is going to go wild. That's a losing game. It's to build a system that can reliably detect the exact moment the market's character shifts, from that quiet, coiled-up energy, what we call compression, to a powerful, directional breakout. That right there, that's the entire game. Okay, so how do we do that consistently? Well, we build an automated agent. And I want you to think of it less like a crystal ball and way more like a tireless referee that you've personally trained. It's there to watch the market for you, 24/7, and just enforce a very specific set of rules. And this is the big mental shift we gotta make. We are moving away from the stressful, often impossible game of prediction and stepping into the world of systematic detection. Your agent's only job is to be that impartial referee. It doesn't get scared, it doesn't get greedy, it doesn't get tired. It just watches the conditions and blows the whistle only when your exact criteria are met. Which, of course, brings us to the big technical question. If our automated referee is going to spot a potential breakout, what exactly is it looking for? What are those telltale signs that energy is building up for a massive move? The key concept here has a name. It's called volatility compression. And honestly, that coiled spring analogy is just perfect. It's a period where the market gets super quiet. The price range tightens up, the candles get smaller, all that energy is getting stored up. Now, we can actually measure this objectively with tools like Bollinger Bands, which literally squeeze together on your chart, or a falling average true range, the ATR. The ATR just measures the average size of a candle, so when it drops, you know for a fact the market is getting quiet. Okay, so we've got the concept down, now let's get practical and move on to the actual blueprint. We're gonna look at how this all builds into a concrete set of rules for our automated agent. This is the real step-by-step logic. So first up, step one, we gotta choose our battlefield. That's the asset, in this case gold or XAUUSD, and our time frames. Using a higher time frame like the 4-hour for the big picture context, and a lower one like the 1-hour for the actual signals is a really solid combo. Then, step two is defining the setup. This is why you tell the agent exactly what that coiled spring looks like. You can use a Bollinger Band squeeze or a low ATR reading. And finally, the last piece of this puzzle is the trigger. See, compression alone is just a setup. You need that moment of confirmation, like a candle closing outside of that tight range, just as volatility starts to pick back up. Now, having a setup and a trigger is a great start, but let's be real. Gold loves to throw curveballs. This next part is where it gets really interesting, and frankly, it's maybe the most critical phase, adding rules to filter out all that noise and avoid those classic false breakouts that trap so many people. This is where your risk management really comes to life. So step 4 is that all-important don't get trapped rule. It's a specific condition designed to confirm the breakout is the real deal before you jump in. And step 5 is just as vital, setting your exits. Because a good breakout trade should work pretty quickly. And if it doesn't, you need to know exactly when the idea is dead and it's time to get out. No questions asked. I find this part fascinating because it reveals a strategic trade-off that really comes down to your own personality. Are you more conservative? Then the retest rule might be for you. You're basically waiting for the price to break out and then hold that new level, proving it's serious. You'll avoid a lot more traps this way, but you might miss some of those moves that just take off and never look back. On the other hand, if you can't stand missing a big trend, a momentum rule, using an indicator like ADX to confirm the trend strength is building, gets you in earlier. You'll catch more of the real moves, but you'll also have to deal with a few more head fakes along the way. And for your exits, the agent needs clear, non-negotiable rules. First, you have your invalidation point. Think of it as the line in the sand, where the entire trade idea is just plain wrong, like the price diving right back inside that old range. Then you need active risk management, maybe a dynamic stop loss that uses an ATR multiple, so it adjusts to current volatility. And finally, for taking profits, you can program the agent to lock in some gains early at a set target, and then use a trailing stop to let the rest of your position ride that trend for as long as it lasts. It's all about defining your risk and reward before you even think about entering. So, when you put all of these pieces together, the setup, the trigger, the filters, and the exits, you end up with something incredibly powerful. And it's not magic, it's a consistent, repeatable process. In a market as wild as gold, that consistency is what separates success from pure frustration. And here you can see how it all comes together in a simple, practical blueprint. The setup, a Bollinger squeeze happening while the ATR is low. The trigger, a candle closes outside that range. Your filter, either momentum is picking up or you wait for a simple one candle hold. The invalidation point, price closes back inside the range. And the exits, take a partial profit early and trail the rest. This is the entire logic, all laid out right here. And this brings us right back to the real payoff. Why do all this? Well, by building an agent, you get to define all this complex logic without writing a single line of code. It watches the market around the clock, so you never have to worry about missing a setup. You can test and tweak your rules really quickly. And maybe most importantly, your process stays perfectly consistent even when you're busy with life and can't be glued to the charts all day. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. Gold is going to continue to chop and explode. That's just its nature. The real question is your process defined enough, systematic enough, and consistent enough to actually be there when it happens? Because with the right blueprint, you don't have to guess. You just have to execute.